The House will reconvene again at noon today. Joining me for the hot topics all morning long, WatchDog on Wall Street radio show host Chris Markowski and Fox News contributor and author of Come On Man, Joe Concha. Joe, Chris, great to be with you this morning. Thank you so much for joining me. Chris, I want to get your take on the point that Joe makes here, because I think it's a really good one about Nancy Pelosi. She cracks the whip, right? Or she was cracking the whip, and she had her party in line. And in some ways, that's a good thing because she was able to get things done. But having said that, it also is, sort of stifling democracy to a certain extent and people's voices. Do you think that it's good that this week, people's voices were heard and the Republicans realized that they've got to try to find more of a common ground?
Well, I mean, they get things done in China really quickly, too.
Right.
They're very efficient in regards to that. We haven't had a regular budget process in some 2 decades. I mean, let's be honest here. I'm a taxpayer, and when we see bills being dropped and no one looks at them and nobody can read these things and they can't have any normal debate and there's all these backroom deals with these committees, I'm tired of that. I mean, again, I'm managing people's money. I've got small business clients from all over the country. They're disgusted about the entire process. Yeah. Not to mention, in fact, inflation. Okay, the Fed can only do so much because of all of this ridiculous spending that we've been doing. Okay, this is driving inflation. The Fed can only do so much. We need to get the budget process under control, and we need some accountability.
Absolutely. Every time a spending bill is passed, it's like adding fuel to a raging fire. Jerome Powell's got his hands tied. All he can do is raise rates, which he's been doing. That hurts people. That hurts the economy. And he's going to have to do it more to make up for everything that's happened over the last 2 years. That's why I said I think the hope is for most people in this country that at least spending can get blocked as we move forward. Interesting conversation. We have so much more to get to all morning. We are just getting started. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.
We think towards the middle of the year, maybe in the fall, things will turn around and it'll end up being a good year.
And that makes sense. First quarter is typically a little soft after the holidays, and especially what people are experiencing now with inflation. So we'll have to see. Chris?
I was incredibly encouraged yesterday when it came to the ADP report, and the reason being is you saw small business and mid-sized business hiring go up. A lot of businesses out there, they haven't been even able to open up their restaurant fully because they don't have enough workers. Yeah. So in some sense, it's almost anti-inflationary when you're able to actually get back to full employment. How many times you've gone into a place, bear with us, we don't have enough workers. We start to see that. That's a major improvement. But we also have the big businesses out there. I don't think it's so much of an economy. I think, you're seeing Salesforce laying people off. They made the mistake. They went too crazy with their hiring, and now they're dealing with it. You can blame it on the economy. I'm not buying that. I'm saying it's just you got rid of workers that you didn't need.
You can even say that, Amazon had to beef up because of the pandemic, how much people were relying on that company to get goods while they weren't able to leave the house while we were all under lockdown, and that they, it would be natural to shed some of that workforce as well. It's a good point, Chris. Time for the hot topic buzz. President Biden once again flubbing, calling Vice President Kamala Harris the president during his border speech on Thursday. It didn't take long for the president to lose his place when asked about the House Speaker vote. Watch this.
Are you still monitoring the Speaker's race? Are you still watching the Speaker's race?
I'm following with great, how can I say it? Attention.
Chris.
Listen, you need a decoder ring sometimes to figure this stuff out. I mean, the day before, and I quote, this is our president. I'll paraphrase the phrase of my old neighborhood. The rest of the country's, the world is not a patch in our genes. If we do what we want to do, we need to do. Can you translate that from the word salad?
Wow. I said this yesterday between him and Kamala Harris and Karine Jean-Pierre. I can't understand what anyone's saying. Joining me for all the hot topics all morning long, Chris Markowski, Joe Concha. Guys, it's great to be with you this morning, and thank you so much for being here. Your reaction? Things are dangerous down there. The agents say they're overrun.
It's lawless. There was actual cartel members shooting up an airport in Mexico yesterday after they arrested El Chapo's son. We've got to come to grips with the fact we have over 100,000 people dying plus a year in this country. Try to get your arms around that. It makes the crack cocaine epidemic look minuscule. Yeah, fentanyl, but it's also this new methamphetamine that's coming in that's Walter White strong. It's almost 100% pure. And the funny thing is, there's no more heroin in this country. There's no growth cycles. It's all being manufactured in Mexico in these little small places. We got this, they call it the Three Amigos Summit that's coming up this week. You might want to press Mexico in regard to this. Our people are dying.
Yeah.
I mean, if this happened in any other way, we'd be sending the military in. I mean, we're going to have to deal with this at some point in time.
Yeah, drugs are poisoning the country, are poisoning our youth, and really creating.
You might want to. That's Walter White strong. It's almost 100% pure. And the funny thing is, there's no more heroin in this country. There's no growth cycles. It's all being manufactured in Mexico in these little small places. We got this, they call it the Three Amigos Summit that's coming up this week. You might want to press Mexico in regard to this. Our people are dying.
Yeah.
I mean, if this happened in any other way, we'd be sending the military in. I mean, we're going to have to deal with this at some point in time.
Yeah, no, it really is pervasive. And also, of course, there was the irony during the pandemic of how we were being locked down. We were being told we had to test. If you worked in New York, for example, you had to get a vaccine. There was a mandate in order to come into the office, yet we were letting people come over across the border without checking them for COVID or other diseases as well. That's still a pending health crisis, not with respect to the COVID, but everything else that comes across too.
We're talking measles now.
Yeah.
That's back. I mean, how does this happen? How does measles get back into the equation here, unless we're allowing people to come in that shouldn't be here? Listen, I think that there's been some reform issues that have been put forward. You got Maria Salazar down in Miami. I like her plan. It's this 15-year plan towards going towards citizenship. But again, people are going to come here because they're either getting government handouts or giveaways, or they can get a job. Mm-hmm. Why not institute E-Verify? Force employers to say, hey, you know what? You've got to have paperwork or you can't work here, and also do away with all the handouts. Then people will stop coming. Again, we know how difficult it is. I mean, now in Florida, they're showing up in boats, 500, 600 down in the Keys. Yeah. So you've got major humanitarian issues in Haiti, in Cuba as well. Cuba's a disaster. At some point in time, we need some leadership and we need to deal with it.
Welcome back. Time for the word on Wall Street. Top investors watching your money this morning. Here with me now is Amerivet Securities head of U.S. rates, Gregory Farinello. Chris Markowski also joining us. Chris, I'll go ahead and start with you. Waiting on the jobs report,
yes.
Right? Okay, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Economists expecting the U.S. will likely add 200,000 new non-farm jobs. Unemployment rate remaining at 3.7%. Your expectations?
I think it's going to probably be around that 200,000 number, but you might as well just throw a dart at the board. You're also dealing with all these statistics in December and how they go about handling the Christmas hiring and the things that go along with that. I was very encouraged yesterday by the ADP report and seeing that small businesses and mid-sized businesses they're starting to fill jobs, which they need to do, and I think that's a great sign. I actually think that's deflationary, not inflationary.
And when the market started to realize that towards the end of the year in 2022, in December, investors got spooked, and we saw some of these, really volatile days again. Do you think 2023 is going to have that pattern of volatility because there's uncertainty still?
Oh, I think absolutely we're going to continue to see volatility moving forward. And, the funny thing is it's like a give and take. Are we going to follow what the Fed is going to do? Or are we going to worry about a recession and earnings? And this is what investors are dealing with right now. They're getting pulled in both directions. I kind of subscribe to the fact that, the Fed is limited in what they can do. The Fed can't stop the avian flu. They can't bring egg prices down. The Fed can't go out and pump oil or gas. And they are pretty much a blunt instrument in how they can go about handling things. Money supply, we could discuss that a little bit. That's basically gone negative at this point in time. Again, what they said last year, based upon what they did 2 years ago, based upon what they did last year, was complete antithesis. So they can change on a dime if they want to. If they feel that we're going to hit a recession, I think they're going to go in the opposite direction. Political
they can.
Pressure.
And, the Fed definitely got it wrong when Jerome Powell said that inflation was going to be transitory. It clearly was not. We'd like to see participation go up. That brings us to this notion that the government has paid people to stay home, incentivize not working in this country versus working. The employees that you're talking about are being hoarded by companies are the ones that are actually getting out. They, in some cases, have two jobs to make ends meet. And then you've got people that are still sitting on the sidelines.
Well, again, it's stuff that the Fed can't fix. These are Washington issues. You guys talk about all the government spending, which had this ridiculous omnibus package being spent. You just had Joe Biden meet with Mitch McConnell on the infrastructure bill. This is all money that's going to be coming into the system, and that can be inflationary. Thank God we're now starting to see the supply chains loosen up a little bit, so that's going to be a bit helpful. Even the auto manufacturers who had a horrible December are saying, okay, things are getting much better. Maybe we can start lowering our prices. So there's some good signs here and there. You want to do the old Larry Kudlow green shoots when it comes to inflation. We're heading in in the right direction.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Gregory Farnello, Chris, you're going to be with us all morning. Great to see you. Thank you.
Congressman Miller, good morning. This is Chris Markowski. Quick question. You mentioned you got 80%. They said they got 80% of what they wanted. And again, you think that's a great compromise. My question is, what's left? What is the 20% that they're holding out for? What issues are keeping them on the fence?
From my understanding and from what the conversations that have been had that I have not been in behind closed doors is they want more seats on the steering committee and a couple more chairs and a few more things to be brought to the floor on legislation when it regards to the border, when it regards to term limits, and a couple other things. But they already have the ultimate, no pun intended, trump card, which is the motion to vacate the speaker at one individual.
For the first time ever, we're actually seeing both Meta and Google actually not at 50% plus as far as advertising dollars are concerned with digital. What is going to be the washout? Where do you see the money going? I know we're having the issues with streaming as well. They're still trying to figure out how to go about making money. What's next?
Yeah, well, I don't think the metaverse is really catching on, but that is something that was drawing our attention. And you're getting policy solutions that are being offered by hopefully this new Republican House and the Senate as well. Senator Lee's ad tech bill is really going to target, as you said, some of their previous business models. So they're going to have to figure it out. I don't think that they can recreate the magic of TikTok and their For You algorithm, but I think if they pour more money into machine learning, I think AI, look at what ChatGPT is doing, so those language models, I think finding ways to be more innovative with artificial intelligence, they're going to win the race.
What about the subscription-based model? I know Elon Musk was trying that with the, you got to pay for a check, whatever it may be.
Oh, yeah, whatever happened with that?
I mean, listen, I wouldn't mind. I'd pay a certain dollar amount for social media if I could get rid of advertisements and the non-following thing. I mean, we do that with streaming now. We say,
right.
Okay, I don't want to have ads. Is that something going to happen? But Facebook head in that direction?
Yes, and Meta's teased this, looking at influencers and investing in the influencers, vice the platform itself and the news feed and whatnot. I also think looking at the Substack model, that their success is wonderful. They're devotees to free speech, and frankly, people are flocking to the charismatic individuals, the Greenwalds of the world, those that are giving them the right information, because frankly, we can't really count on legacy media at this point. They're not telling us the truth.
Joining me for all the hot topics all morning long, Chris Markowski and Joe Concha. Great to be with you both. It's been hard to catch up post-pandemic. It's been hard to bring businesses back and to get people incentivized to want to work here again, because they don't want to get on the subway. It's scary to get on the subway. It's scary just to walk around here. Well,
Joe, how many times you pick up a paper, you see an awful crime or a violent crime happen in this city or somewhere else, and then they talk about the rap sheet of the person that they caught.
Yeah,
and it's like a telephone book. And you're saying to yourself, how is this person out of jail? Now, Chris Wray, he addresses the problem with signing cops up. But imagine being a police officer where it's basically catch and release. Yeah. You do your job, you put somebody behind bars, and it's a revolving door. They're right back out again. Here at Fox News, the person who, was it last year with the arson at the tree, was let go right away. I mean, it's patently absurd.
It was. And, you really just have to shake your head at that.
Think about it in regards to inflation. Target announced that last year, $600 million in loss. Now, they have to price that into their goods that they sell. I mean, this is a part of it people fail to realize. Again, nobody wants to do anything. They don't want to use the security guards there because they're afraid they're going to get sued. Eventually, what do? They just price the cost on down to us that actually pay. Economists
expecting 200,000 non-farm jobs were added to the economy, with the unemployment rate holding steady at 3.7%. Joining me now, making money with Charles Payne, host Charles Payne himself. Charles, good morning. What are you expecting?
I don't know. It's the game. I don't even try to play that game anymore. I do find it intriguing, though, that I hate the way it's reported. I hate when I hear, I remember the last jobs report, and I got home and the local TV show was on, and the jobs market is strong. If you come in at 250,000 and the street had 230,000, that's not strong. You just beat consensus, particularly if 6 months earlier it was 700,000.
Welcome back. The December jobs report out in just minutes from now. Economists expecting 200,000 jobs created, with the unemployment rate holding steady at 3.7%. Here to help break it all down, making money with Charles Payne, host Charles Payne, Macro Mavens President Stephanie Pomboy, EmployBridge Chief Workforce Analyst Joni Biley, FreedomWorks economist Steve Moore, LaSalle Network founder and CEO Tom Gimbel, also joining the conversation all morning long, Chris Markowski and Joe Concha. We've got an all-star panel set to break down these numbers.
The Fed can't fix this. It's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. This is all policy-type decisions. We discussed this earlier on in the program, the fact that if you're paying people to stay home, if they're looking at situations where, you know what, if I go out and get that extra job or if I get a raise, then I'm going to lose this benefit. These are all things that Washington has to deal with. The Federal Reserve can look at this all they want. They want to blow up the economy and go crazy with rates. I mean, is it really necessary to, in order, you know, what do they say from Vietnam? I need to destroy the village in order to save it? We don't want that. I like the fact that people can get a job. Joni, is there any way that we can track to see these temp workers that maybe became full-time workers? You know, we talked about this leading into a recession, but, you know, I'm an employer and I've got temporary workers, and we see what the labor market is and how difficult it is to hire people. Do you transfer these workers into full-time workers?
Oh, that's a great question, Chris. And, you know, temporary workers, they do transition over into permanent jobs. Unfortunately, the government isn't capturing that data, so it's very difficult to get to that. So you do bring out a great point. Hopefully, many of those jobs have gone permanently. I can tell you from our customers at EmployBridge, we have seen certainly a demand and kind of a shift where companies are hiring more permanent people than temporary workers over the last year. Our direct hire, executive search, permanent placement business has been up significantly. And I think Tom would tell you the same thing. We're both on the board of directors for the American Staffing Association. And we see that in the industry, that permanent placement has really been a driver for the staffing industry over the last 12 months.
Many of these, we're starting to see the tech layoffs right now, and they're all coming out. Oh, it's the economy. It's the economy. I'm saying nonsense. I said you went too crazy with your hiring. You overpaid people. They mentioned Goldman Sachs layoffs. Goldman Sachs usually every single year takes a certain portion of their workers and they lay them off. They haven't done that over the past 7 years. So we're playing catch up here. And I think a lot of these companies right now, it's about being productive. You take a look. You mentioned Elon Musk earlier on. He fired 70%. It's still working. Twitter's still up and running. It's still operating. And I think a lot of companies are going to have to make more or less, which is going to make them more profitable, which will then start the next growth cycle where you're going to start seeing them invest again.
And does that get...
Except that labor productivity numbers have been poor. They haven't been good. So maybe there is a new focus, if that's the point you're making, that the businesses are going to get focused on productivity, because the numbers last year were pretty poor on labor productivity.
Well,
and by the way, we're the ones who did that. Yeah, we're the ones who did that report that showed that people could make $75,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year for not working. And that has to be a top priority for Congress, is stop paying people not to work. We all want a safety net, but the idea that people can make more money than the person next door who's working, that's just not fair. It's not good for the economy, and it's not good, for getting people back into the workforce.
Just got a few seconds left. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Stephanie Pomboy, Joni Biley, Steve Moore, Tom Gimbel, Chris Markowski, Joe Concha. We so appreciate everybody joining us this morning to break it down, but we're going to toss it over to Varney and Company. Stuart's going to take it away.
All right. Good morning, Jackie.